Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Not sure what part of the world you are right now as you listen to this session. My name is Dr. Tina Ibironke, and I'm here to start a series. The series itself is called Test to Testimony, but we'll focus on different themes as the week goes on. This particular session, we're kicking off with a theme, and I title Change Your World. This particular title has been on my mind since the Holy Spirit has been nudging me to start a session whereby I can talk about my personal test and how God turned that into a testimony so that somebody will be able to benefit from it. Maybe someone will get some form of hope, encouragement from my testimony. And with that, I also intend to share some of the concepts from our thought leaders from books and how this week, how we can use our gifts and how we can change our world. The book that was written by John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins, titled Change Your World, this is a book I'm going to be following in terms of the thoughts that I'll be sharing in this session, at least for a couple of weeks before we move on to a different theme. Again, the theme is Change Your World, and I am Tina Ibironke. This is Dana, and here we will be sharing a lot of stories about how people have been able to change our world from a young individual to older individual, meaning that at any point in life, we have the capability to change the world because we all have unique gifts that God has deposited in us. With that said, I would like to get started with the session. And I hope that as you listen, that you'll have something to take away, maybe for yourself or something that you can share with others. So like I said, I will be touching on the book, starting off with this book, Change Your World. The goal here is to be able to challenge each other on how we can use the gifts that God has given us and deposited in us. If you've been using it, great. Of course, you're still alive because God knows that you can do more. If you have not started using it, there's it shouldn't be a reason for you not to jumpstart and start using the gift, because as believers, and I repeat, as believers, God has deposited in us unique gifts. We are unique individuals, and we can start using that gift at any point in time. All we have to do is to make sure that we ask God for the help to help us jumpstart. Maybe that particular gift and talent is just dormant at this point in time. If this is an opportunity that God is giving you, if you're listening to this tale, you're listening to this session, that it's time for you to get up. It's time for you to wake up, just as God told me and nudged me and told me you really have to get going and let people know that the talent that He has given us, that we need to use it. This session we're focusing on changing your world. And I know the question you have in mind is, what is changing your world? How can I change the world? I mean, the world is such a huge place. And that's why this particular book stood out to me. The title is Change Your World. It's not Change the World. Each and every one of us, we are surrounded by one thing or the other. Your neighborhood, it's your environment, your home, it's your environment, maybe your school, is your world. Wherever God has placed you is your world. Some people, the world probably is your workplace. Some people, the world is your family, intimate family, so maybe nuclear family, extended family. To some people, it's your neighbor. Some people, it's probably community and church. To some people, It's your friends, some people we have community, online, virtual community, the world that God has placed around you at your immediate. We should start from there. Of course, it can grow bigger and bigger, but you need to start where you are. What is that gift that God has given you? How have you been using? And I'm talking to myself as well. And that's why I knew that it was time to get on and start talking about what God has given me to talk about, to discuss, to help somebody. And also myself, I am also, as I begin to as I began to think about this session, I realized that there's a lot that I also needed to do my part in order to fulfill that purpose, in order to fulfill the goal that I have in mind, which God has placed in my mind. This is one of it. All right, so with that said, I will just give us starting off with a few points from this book, Change Your World. And the first thing that John and Rob mentioned in the book was, who do you need? Who do we need to change this world? Of course, it's you, it's me. It's each and every one of us. The fact that we are alive, the fact that we know Christ, and the fact that we are still breathing means that you can open your eyes and get up. That means you have work to do. We all have work to do day by day. We need to continue to search deep inside of us and to check ourselves every day to make sure that we are following the path that God has given us, to make sure that we are making a difference, to make sure that we're impacting lives, to make sure that others' lives are being improved. You're trying your best to give hope to others. So in whichever capacity that you're in, you don't have to be the leader of a group. You don't have to be the head of the family. You don't have to be the pastor of a church. Neither do you have to be a CEO of a company before you can change your world. You can absolutely start from where you are. And that's why I do want to share a story with us. But before I go into the story, because that's going to be the final part of the second session, part of this session, is actually to tell the story, to bring out what I've been trying to explain in terms of changing your words. So we need you. We already know that. I remember a song. Can't remember how to sing the song, but the song simply was saying that God, look at all the things that are happening all over the world. There is people are killing themselves, and there's an earthquake. There's this and there's that. There's so much happening. God, do something. And I remember listening to the song, the lyrics of the song. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what is the guy going to say after this? Because the first time I listened to the song, I'm like, well, that's very true. I mean, look, these people are dying. There is the world seems like it's going to implode. There's so much going on. I'm like, okay, yeah, God, what are you going to do? And I remember the next part of the song that as I continued to listen to the song, the guy ended up saying, God said, yes, I have done something. That's why I created you. So the reason why you and I are alive as believers, as children of God, is because God wants us to do something about the situation. Yours may be praying probably within the walls of your house and praying for the leaders around you, praying for your neighborhood, things to get better, praying. I have a prayer team called Nehemiah Troop, and all they do is just pray for countries around the world, ministers. So again, you really have to sit down to actually look inward for you to see what God is placing in your heart, what your gifts are, and how you can use those gifts to change your world. One thing I believe that more than anything else is, once you are a believer, you have work to do. One of the things we need to do is to ensure, of course, that people already or others do know Christ through us. And also, we need to use the gift that God has given us to change our world. I mean, whatever we use that gift is to glorify the name of God. And as we do that, because when you're glorifying God, you can actually see the evidence around you, because whatever you do, you know that you are actually acting on what God has told you to do. So if you're doing anything and you're doing it with the intention of glorifying God, you know God will glorify himself. There will be change, impact, you can make a difference. So that's what the session is about. And I also just want to mention that after the first part that was mentioned, was first thing that was mentioned as in the book, a different Change Your World book, John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins pointed out is you need you, and you once you know, and you can definitely identify with the fact that God created you, that whatever it is that you were doing, if it's not glorifying God, you know definitely that it's not the right thing to do. Yes, you may have a gift. Yes, you may be a problem solver. Yes, you may be great. Yes, you may be, as a matter of fact, you may even think you don't have anything. So not doing anything, not knowing that you even have the gifts, I don't really even think that is where God wants us to be. So if you cannot identify the gift, if you don't even know that you have that gift, that's a problem right there. So now to even start looking at the fact that you are created as a believer, as a child of the Most High God, to make sure that you make a difference in the environment that you are in, no matter how little the difference is, no matter the point still remains that you are alive. So make sure that you evangelize and speak to the world about this Jesus. At the same time, when you do that, whatever you find yourself doing, it has to glorify the name of God. All right. So with that said, rather we need know that we need you to actually change the world. A couple of things also we need to take into consideration. Now you need to know, and of course you need to own that the fact that yours are gifts. So some people are probably believe, oh, I don't want gifts, I can't know how to do anything. If you're breathing to the glory of God, you're a child of God as gifts, you need to identify. If you've already identified yours, that's great and wonderful. Another thing also is you need to change your mindset. So if you are probably have the belief that, oh, I don't have any gifts. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing when I don't even have any gifts? So you need to change that mindset that God has created us. You cannot just be, God doesn't create things that's probably not going to be productive. What's the point? What's the point of you being alive and you're not even, you're not, it has to, you have to fulfill some sort of goal. It's as an inventor, for someone that's probably creating the things. Maybe you build things, or you can't just, for example, people that actually built cars, it was for a purpose, it was for a reason. If the car is no longer functioning, of course, it probably needs to be thrown out. Same way, our creator created us for a reason, for a purpose, and as long as you're breathing, you have a reason for being here. So changing our mindset of, I don't have any gifts, or changing our mindset of, okay, somebody else can do it, why me? Or changing the mindset, okay, why do I need to worry about anybody else? Those are the kind of things that we think about that doesn't even allow us to think about the fact that, oh, maybe I should probably do something that will not just be beneficial to me, but also beneficial to you. But it might be changing your character. It might just be changing your demeanor. It might be your interaction. It might be your what you do daily, just doing it differently now, knowing fully well that you're doing it to the glory of God. So those are the kind of things we need to kind of look at when we start to consider the fact that we are here and for a purpose and for a reason. And the gifts that God has deposited in us, we ought to use it to change the world around us. All right, so let Amy conclude here by talking about this boy that I told you about. I'm going to start this story. This is actually a story that touched my life as well. Maybe you're out there, maybe you're listening to this particular session and you're thinking, what is the point? What is she trying to say? All right, so let me conclude with this story. All right, so there was on the, I think the boy is definitely still alive, probably in his 30s. And back in 2001, I believe he was about 12 or 14. I'm not quite sure. His name is William Kamkwamba. He is a Malawian boy. And of course, if you have not watched The Boy Who Unleashed the Wind, you might want to watch that as well. I love watching movies, and I do love watching real true stories. So it really gets me thinking. Every time I watch the stories or true life stories, it actually gets me to think about how God, and I see things in a totally different way. I think outside of the box, regardless of how what kind of movie I'm watching. I love to like movies. I'm like, okay, so what exactly am I getting here? What exactly is God using this particular movie to change in my life? What exactly how can I use this? How can it be beneficial to me? Because I hate wasting my time. If I'm watching, yes, there's leisure time where you can watch things, for the fun of it. But my mindset is about it around what am I getting? What am I getting out? How can I share? Who can benefit? So when I was watching the movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a bit different because the boy is 12, 14. And so back then in the boy in the village where the boy lived, he started school very late, probably around it was like 8. It was when he started his elementary school. So he started very, very late. And of course, after a while, he also had to leave because payments, the dad couldn't pay, I believe it was at the time, or maybe there was just not. They were facing the entire community or the village they were actually facing a drought. There was no rain, they couldn't plant, and of course the crops wouldn't grow because the rain just wouldn't fall. Everything was dry, so it was a big. And it went on. They started to get government support for a bit. And it started to from 1 year to 2 years. So really, it was really tough. So some of the people migrated, they kind of moved out of that village. I believe William's parents were probably one of the few that actually stayed. If you watch the movie, there was a little depiction of how they had killed the dog, or maybe how the dog died, and they were just trying so hard to stay. People were leaving because they just couldn't, there was no way to survive in that environment because there was no rain, they couldn't plant some food and all of that. It was so much fun. But the mindset that this boy developed was what got my attention. A 12-year-old boy, I believe he must have probably gone to school for like 2 years or maybe 3 years at most before the trouble started and he had to stop school. Of course, when there's no food and things are dry, of course, there's nowhere to move the community forward. But they developed not the fact that he didn't develop an attitude of, oh, you know what, I'm doing this. Let's just go. I mean, of course, being a 12-year-old boy, he has parents, he has sort of siblings as well. But the mindset of how do we solve this problem? That really got me. I'm not going to lie. When I read, I'm like, a 12-year-old boy, where did you get the idea of looking for solution? Because what happened was, after a while, the boy, William, started to go to the library looking for resources and books. And like I said, at this point in time, school was closed. I believe it was probably the only library that was available to the village. He started to look at different ways to resolve the issue. I don't know even how they got the idea that the issue could have been, it would be able to resolve the issue as a 12-year-old boy. I mean, that got me. How can you, as a 12-year-old boy, not even having any support, you're not working, you don't have any means of, even if you found a solution, of making sure that you can implement the solution that he started to read books, and he realized that, okay, can I actually build a windmill? And then from that, there can be power that will probably help him, a windmill that will generate enough energy to pump water out of the ground. And believe it or not, the boy already mastered what he had to do. Like I said, there was no resources. He actually had to go to a dump yard or a dump ground and started to gather probably just different parts from things that had been dumped, trash, force. That's what it was. It was because these are things that had been abandoned because he didn't have any resources. So he had to go to the garbage dump looking for parts. How do you? Because there's no way the book that he read could have said go to the dump yard or go to the garbage dump and start to gather resources. There's no way the book would have told him that. Obviously, the book gave him starter parts to use, but he looked at alternative things. What are the things that he could use in place of the things that the book told him to do? And this is a mindset of, no, I'm not going to give up. No, I'm going to give it all. Or whatever it takes. No, I'm not going to give in to this strat. I'm not just going to give it to whatever it is situation. It needs to have a solution and a solution. And it's not something that took a day. something that you have never seen before. He's never seen a windmill before. He's never seen anyone do it before. He's never been taught in school. It wasn't anything that it's probably seeing that, oh yeah, it's what he only read about it and he believed it, that he could get it done. And like I said, every time I think about this boy, wherever I'm at, whatever situation I'm in, I'm like, okay, I need to develop an attitude that brings solution to problems. And I know a lot of us know that, but for the most part, I guess it's not, maybe it's just natural to me when you see a challenge, a problem, especially the one that you probably never seen before. This guy has never seen this happen in terms of probably they've probably never had a drought that probably was that long of a drought, a period where there was no water, there was no rain, people had to move out of the village, things were just dying, no plants, they couldn't plant, they couldn't do nothing. For a 12-year-old boy, I don't think he's seen that so many times in his life before that happened. What am I saying? Where did he get the idea that, you know what, I can bring solution when the parents were the adults, were the old people were there. But that was his world. And he needed to change. He needed for something to happen. He would not allow the situation to subdue him. He needed to act. It's like, okay, whatever it is, whatever it takes. It's just that every time I think about this thing, I'm thinking in my mind that, oh my goodness, this gift that God has deposited in each and every one of us, we have not explored it enough. We have not, probably we haven't really look into it enough to see that we can do extraordinary things. That it's not when your God placed you in an environment, there's a reason why God placed this boy in an environment where he was at that very point in time. And the boy did not just say, give up his hands and say, you know what, whatever it is, this is God's doing, and there's drought in the land, and I'm just going to give up because I'm a 12-year-old boy. He knew he had something in him, that whatever it was in him was driving him. He was pushing him. He wasn't going to give up to whatever situation environment is. He wasn't going to give up with the fact that he wasn't able to eat 3 times a day. He was not going to give up to say, you know what, adults are dead, you should go and fix the problem. No, he stood up as a 12-year-old with nothing. And the boy started collecting the parts from the garbage dump. He collected bicycle frame and PVC pipe and fan and shock, whatever he could find. It's like, I'm going to make this work. And the reason why I'm telling this story is actually because when I think about this boy, and I do think about this situation a lot, I'm like, God, so each and every one of us, we have some of us have not even discovered the level of what God can do through us with the gift that he has deposited in us. Some of us, it's in the needs, it's time to begin to ask God, to have that fellowship with that God. What are these gifts? How far can I go? Some of us, you've done glorious work, but the fact that you're still alive, and that's what the Bible says, we cannot remain. We can't just remain where we are. We have to keep going, right? From glory to glory. As I said, each and everyone as a believer, we ought to go from glory to glory. So that means the glory of yesterday is gone. Today, of course, tomorrow has to be greater than the glory of today. So what am I saying? Eventually, this boy used this garbage dump, the materials he could pull together. It wasn't a one-day job. They had a lot of failures, according to what you can see in the TV, you'll see on the TV. So what we see on the video, that was the movie. A lot of failures. His friend thought he was crazy. They just didn't know what he was doing. The parents, they couldn't feed him 3 times a day. Probably was eating, but he kept going. Nothing was able to stop him. And eventually, called the cities together. I don't even know how he got the support, and told them, you know what, they got out to dig the well. And of course, with that particular, built the windmill, put the windmill was able to generate enough energy, and they were able to pump water from the ground. And that supply, that water, was what the village needed to build themselves back to get that living boy. Got a scholarship, went overseas to school, and that's been his project, building windmill to the different villages in his environment. Like I said, it started from where he was, his own community, and they needed a solution to a problem, and that's exactly what he did. My challenge for you and I, myself today, is as we enter this new month of as we end the month of June and as we begin the month of July, we need to ask ourselves that have we been able to change the world around us just as God wants us to do? And I'm asking myself the same question like God. What exactly am I doing? What is it? How much more do I have in me that I'm not using right now? I know that there's so much more in me, so much more in you that you have not even scratched the surface. So I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you today. I hope this session has blessed you. The whole point, like I said, is to challenge each other. If you're looking for someone that's going to change your world, you are that person. And it's a time for you to look inside, discover those gifts, and begin to ask God, like, God, what more can I do with this? And as you do that, the Lord himself will reveal himself to you. Thank you so much for joining. Again, we'll continue this series. This series is actually from Danop. And normally it's a mentor connect book club. We're using a book, but the series actually itself is to challenge each and every one of us. It's titled Test to Testimony, the test that William Kwabamba faced turned into a testimony, but today we are testifying about it. He's testifying about it because it's the glory of God, it's the gift of God in his life that made him, that pushed him, that made him to be able to give that, to provide a solution that his village needed. So at this point, I would like to end the session today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I pray that the God Almighty himself will reveal himself, the gifts to us, and will enable us to be able to move further into that purpose, to work in that purpose more and more, so we can change the world around us. So you are the one to change the world. All right, have a wonderful day. Wherever you are, God bless you. Bye-bye.